Welcome back to the PLO vlog. I'm Wayne. Thanks again for the recommendations. We are in for our now usual $400. Let's get into it. All right, so here we look down at ace, ace, king, queen, single suited to the king in the small blind. There's a middle position open at 20, one late position caller. I just decided to call and the big blind calls, so we're going four ways to a flop. Flop comes 10, 8, 6 with two clubs. Now this is actually the hand that I did a short on a couple weeks ago. So the two players essentially ended up getting it all in. The middle position raiser had ace 6, 6, 4. So he had the bottom set with enough flush draw, and the player to my right had king jack 9, 7 with the flop straight and the king high flush draw. So turn brought a queen of clubs, river brought a 7 of hearts, and the nut flush for the middle position player takes it down. Here look down at ace, ace, 10, 4, single suited to the ace in the small blind. There's a middle position limper. Button to my right makes it 25. I call and the limper calls, so we're going three ways to a flop. Flop comes king, queen, 5, rainbow. I check, middle position limper checks, and the button checks, so still three ways to a turn. Turn brings a 5, and I go ahead and lead 30. Middle position player calls, and the button folds, so heads up to a river. River brings an 8, I check, and he quickly checks back. I say aces, thinking I might have the best hand, but he turns over 8, 7, 6, 5 double suited for the boat. So he's going to take it down. Here I look down at king, king, 8, 8, single suited to the king in middle position. When it folds to me, I open a 20, and only the blinds call, so we're going three ways to a flop. Flop comes ace, 6, 2 with two spades. When it checks to me, I decide to bet 30, even though there's an ace out there, which obviously you don't ever want to see with kings. I still have enough flush draw and still can represent aces, so I bet 30 and only the big blind calls, so heads up to a turn. Turn brings a king of hearts, and I want to bet small enough to keep him in because at this point I believe he's probably drawing dead. I put him on a flush draw. Obviously I have the nut flush draw, and now that I hit a set, only way he could probably win is if he hits a gutter with Broadway, but I bet 50 and he makes the call, so heads up to a river. River brings a 3 of diamonds, which obviously brings in the 4, 5, but I'm not really concerned of him having that. When he checks, I decide to try to get some value here. I go with 105, and he thinks for a little bit, but makes the fold. So we don't get any more value, but happy to take down a small pot. Here I look down at king 9, 6, 5 double suited in the big blind. Under the gun to my left makes it 15. There's two callers, and I call. So four ways to a flop. Flop comes 8, 5, 3 with two spades. I check, and action actually checks through. So we're going four ways still to a turn. Turn brings a jack of spades, bringing in the front door flush. I check. Original raiser bets 45. Other players fold back to me. I decide to call. I just don't really believe his story, so we're going heads up to a river. River brings the ace of clubs. I check. He decides to put out a bet of 145 and then back to me. So this isn't a hand I typically call bets with, but a couple of things I was thinking in the situation. One, this player is extremely aggressive. He is the quote-unquote maniac from a couple videos ago, so I definitely know he's capable of bluffing. And really the main thing in this hand was he was the original raiser and then decided to check the flop. Most people, if they are the original raiser pre-flop in Omaha, they're going to almost certainly bet the flop if they have a high flush draw. So because he didn't, that leads me to believe that he's just making a play here. So I decide to call, and he doesn't look too happy about it. He turns over his hand. He shows ace jack with the ace of spades. So he was just turning the nut flush blocker into a bluff, and I'm happy to take this down. So here I look down at ace, ace, king 10, single suited to the ace in the small blind. There's an under the gun open to 20, two middle position callers. Back to me, I call, so we're going four ways to a flop. Flop comes 7, 3, 3 with two clubs. I check. It actually checks to the late position player who bets 40. I call and under the gun call, so three ways to a turn. Turn brings a 9. I check, and he immediately bets 200. So what my thinking here is that I could have obviously played this a little bit more aggressively pre-flop. Now that I'm in this situation with no draw, and this is a player, he's very new to PLO, and he's made some very questionable and beginner PLO plays. It's really hard to put a read on him. The only other problem too is if I call this $200 bet, I gotta be prepared to call off the rest of my stack on the river. So I just decided to fold and pick a better spot. I definitely know that I could have played this a little bit more aggressively pre-flop, but I just felt like I wasn't going to be able to make it big enough to take it down or get it heads up. So I fold and he takes it down. Here I look down at King, King, 9-9, double suited in middle position in a straddled pot. I open to 40. The button 3 bets to 135. Back to me. I make the call. So heads up to a flop. Flop comes ace, ace, 3 with 2 hearts. I check. He thinks a bit, but checks back. So still heads up to a turn. Turn brings a 7 of spades and action checks through again. So heads up still to a river. River brings a queen of clubs. I decide to check, and he's assembling some chips, but ultimately checks back. I turn over my hand, and he turns over his. He shows 9, 7, 6, 5 double suited. So based on his hand, I potentially missed a little value there on the turn. He turned a pair with a straight draw and had a lower flush draw. But I decided to check back because I've seen a lot of players make this exact same play with pocket aces, obviously. I mean, if they flop quads, they're probably not going to bet until, near the end, just hoping someone makes a hand. So happy to take it down, though, despite losing some value. Here I look down at ace, ace, queen, 7, single suited to the ace in middle position. There's an early position limp, middle position raised to 25. I call, then both blinds and the limper call. So we're going 5 ways to a flop. Flop comes ace, deuce, deuce, rainbow. And everyone checks to me, and can't really bet here, so I check back. Still 5 ways to a turn. Hoping the turn brings some backdoor draws, but unfortunately it's a 9, bringing in the full rainbow and no straight draws. So checks to me again, and I guess I just have to keep slow playing, so I check back. Still 5 ways to a river. River brings a 10, and unfortunately it checks to me again. Can't slow play anymore. I decide to bet 55, and unfortunately everyone folds, so we take it down. Obviously here, me not 3-betting pre-flop definitely could have lost me some value after that board. But I know it's a give and take. It is going to cost me some value, as in this hand, but it also might save me some value, such as in the earlier hand with ace, ace, king, 10, where, who knows what would have happened. But I know my aces play is definitely a topic of conversation, but I typically do try to play them a little slower pre-flop. Not saying I don't ever 3 or 4 bet, but I do try to keep it a little smaller pre-flop on occasion and go from there. Here I look down at ace 10, 9, 8, single suited to the ace under the gun. I make it 20. We get 1 late position caller and the big blind calls, so 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes king 10, 9 rainbow. Checks to me, I check, and late position player checks, so still 3 ways to a turn. Turn brings a king. Big blind checks, I check, late position player bets 30. Then the big blind check raised to 100. I fold and the late position player folds, so big blind's going to take it down. Here look down at ace, jack, 10-2, single suited to the ace in the small blind. There's an early position open to 20, middle position caller, I call, and we're going 3 ways to a flop. Flop comes ace, deuce, deuce, rainbow. I check and both players check, so still 3 ways to a turn. Turn brings a 4 diamonds, bringing in the backdoor flush draw. Got to try to get some value here, so I bet 45. Middle position player folds and late position makes the call, so heads up to a river. River brings an 8 of diamonds, bringing in the backdoor flush. I decide to get some value and bet 70, and he thinks for a little bit here, but makes it 230. And I'm sitting there thinking, and he was the caller pre-flop. He's typically a player that's, in late position. He's going to raise there with aces, so don't really put him on that. I guess he certainly could have 4s. Maybe, but there's not really many hands he can have to beat me. So I make the call and he says, you're probably good. And he turns over his hand. He was just using ace, 8, 4 blockers to make a bluff, and I'm going to take it down. So happy to scoop this one. Here I look down at ace, queen, jack, 10, single suited to the ace in early position. I open a 20. Aggressive player on my left makes it 55. Folds back to me, and I make the call. So heads up to a flop. Flop comes queen 5-3 rainbow. I check. He leads 70, and I make the call. So still heads up to a turn. Turn brings a 3, which shouldn't really change much. Now here my thinking was if I checked, he's definitely going to go for almost a full pot size bet. And although I'm probably ahead, I'm not 100% sure. So I decided to go with a blocker bet to really prevent him from bluffing me off the hand potentially. So I bet 75, and he quickly folds, so happy to take it down. So here I look down at ace-ace, 8-3, single suited to the ace in the cutoff. There's a couple limpers ahead of me. I open a 30. The button calls, big blind calls, and both the limpers call. So we're going 5 ways to a flop. Flop comes jack 6-5 rainbow. Big blind doesn't waste any time. He bets 70. And then player to my right is counting out a raise, and he makes it 365. Back to me, obviously I fold. I don't fully remember the ending of this hand, but I believe it was a set versus a wrap, and they ran it twice and chopped it. Played about 3 or 4 orbits after that, didn't get much. And as I was trying to cash out, the player that was taking my seat was trying to buy my chips, so I sold it to him as opposed to making him wait as well. What's up, guys? Wayne back here with you. So I just finished up. Today was a little bit of a slower table, a little tighter than average, but the player to my left was actually the same quote-unquote maniac from a couple videos ago. So started out with aces. I actually got aces about 5 times, ended up only winning 1 of them with the flopped full house and couldn't get anyone to bet. But then shortly after that, got the kings and 8s, ended up winning a small pot there, and then had the king 9-6-5 double suited. Not really the greatest hand, but I was in the blind, ended up calling the raise, and then the same player to my left, the maniac player, he actually ended up bluffing 2 streets. I ended up just calling him on it. That's definitely not a hand I'd be able to call against most players, but in that particular case I just kind of went with the read and it ended up working out. Then a little bit later ended up getting kings and 9s double suited, ended up winning a 3-bet pot. We checked it all the way. Towards the end I had ace queen jack 10 single suit against the same player. He 3-bet me. I called. Check called his flop bet of 70, and then I just ended up betting on the turn, just kind of as a way to not have to check call like a couple $100 bet. Ended up taking that down. So I know I've had some comments recently, kind of asking why I play some of the hands the way I do, and I'm definitely not. I definitely know that the way I play is not, GTO, so to say, or like by the book. But by now, pretty much everyone at the table knows that I, post my sessions. So that's definitely one reason why I try to mix up my play a little bit. And, one of the benefits of that is there is some players that will try to bluff me because they know I'm pretty tight. So I picked off the 1 bluff earlier with the 9-high flush, and then later in the session I had the ace deuce on the ace deuce deuce flop. Ended up picking him off. He just had like 2 pairs or something. So I do definitely lose some value by playing some of my hands slow, but another benefit is I get people that will try to bluff me, and if I go with the right read I can pick them off. So all in all, pretty good session today, I believe. I was in for 400, out for 1,007, so a profit of 607. If you guys enjoyed it, please hit the like and subscribe button. If your viewing experience could have been better, please let me know how down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.